Let's take a look at fast starts because there's debates that I see about, well, my team's off to a good start, yours is too, but your team, you guys haven't played anybody, but our team, we're great. The reality is, we don't know how good any of these teams are yet. We really don't. And we're going to find out over the next month or so. But I just want to focus on what they've done, who they've beaten, who they've lost to. I'm not getting into shootouts and overtimes, just this is who they've won, who they've lost against. Buffalo, Edmonton, Arizona, Vancouver, enlisting by where they are in the standings. And yes, Arizona's ahead of Vancouver in the standings because Arizona wins more in regulation than does Vancouver. Also more regulation overtime wins than Vancouver. So, yes, Arizona is ahead of Vancouver. Goal differential is not the first tiebreaker. Now, Buffalo, 9-2-1. Excellent start. Their only losses, Columbus, Anaheim, and the Rangers. This black dot means you lost to a team that's in the bottom 10 on my current power rankings. Wins, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Montreal, Florida, Dallas, LA, San Jose twice, and Detroit. 7 of those have black dots. So against bottom 10 teams, Buffalo has got 7 wins in 8 games. So what Buffalo's doing is they're taking a schedule against teams that aren't playing very well, and they're winning all of the games against those teams, minus the loss to the Rangers. Now, teams in the top 10, the only team in the top 10 they've played, again with a red dot, is Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh's number 10 this week, so it's precarious. And, of course, Pittsburgh has had their own problems this year as well, right? So, injury mostly. Now, that was their opening night game against Pittsburgh, and that was an impressive win. So that gives them 1 there. Now, their power play, 28.89%. Their penalty kill, 81.08%. Their special teams are excellent. That being said, their power play was running at around 50%, and it has started to kind of slow down. The regulation overtime wins, they have 8. They're 2-1 in overtime, and they've got 1 shootout win. So, they actually have 6 regulation wins, which is your first tiebreaker when it comes to playoff position. But at 9-2-1, they really don't have to worry about the regulation wins right now. At home, they're 5-0, and on the road, they're 4-2-1. Overall, 9-2-1. Their road record not as good as at home. That's standard. And all 4 of these teams have pretty good home records so far this season. Again, they're 7-1 versus the bottom 10, 1-0 versus top 10. They have not played a lot of good teams yet, and that's an issue. Eichel, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. It looks like he is realizing his potential from his draft class. Dahlin, 1 goal, 9 assists. He's been fantastic. And Olofsson stands out as a rookie. 6 goals, 4 assists for him. And, of course, all of his goals scored on the power play. And it's not a coincidence that as their power play has dropped, he has gone cold as well. They need Olofsson to start snapping him in from between the hash marks again. So this is noteworthy. Their next 5 games is going to tell us a lot. They're against Arizona at home. Then they go to Washington before playing against New York, the New York Islanders at home. Then they're at home against Tampa, and then on the road against Tampa. Now, there's 6 days in between the New York Islanders game and the Tampa game. But that home and home with Tampa, that'll go a long way to telling us whether or not Buffalo really has arrived and they're really going to be a contender this year, or if there's a danger they're going to fall back. And again, Washington, the Islanders, and Tampa, that's 4 of their next 5 games are against teams that are in the top 10 in the power rankings. So It is going to be very telling over the next 5 games about where Buffalo is at. Edmonton, they're 8-2-1. Their wins have come against Vancouver, the Los Angeles Kings, New York Islanders, New Jersey, the New York Rangers, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Washington. If you're following along at home, black dots next to the Kings, Jersey, Rangers, and Detroit, so that's 4 wins. And then when you look at the losses side of things, they lost at Chicago, at Winnipeg, and at Minnesota. And 2 of those are teams with black dots, so those are in the bottom 10. That's 4-2 against the bottom 10. Now, against the top 10, they've played twice, Washington and the Islanders, and they beat both. So they're 2-0 against teams in the top 10. So see, that kind of gives you an idea. Their power play is running at 33.3%. Their penalty kill, 86.11%. I don't have to tell anybody. Those numbers are fantastic, and if those keep up anywhere near that rate, they have a very good chance. Regulation overtime wins, they've got 7. They've got 1 win in overtime. They're 1-1 in the shootout, so they've got 6 regulation wins thus far this season. McDavid, of course, leads them in scoring, 6 goals, 14 assists for 20 points. And this team will go as far as McDavid can get them. And that power play, McDavid plays a large role there as well. Clefbaum's their leading scorer on the blue line with 1 goal, 8 assists. And noteworthy young player on the team is Ethan Bear with 2 goals and 1 assist. Their next 5 games, it doesn't really necessarily tell us whether or not this is, a contending team, in that they're at home against Florida today. Then they go to Detroit. Then they're at Columbus, then they're at Pittsburgh, and then they're at home against the Arizona Coyotes. Over the next 5, they've only got 1 against teams that are in the top 10. Now, Arizona's on that list as well, so this is a good test for Arizona and a decent test for the Edmonton Oilers as well. So, again, over the next couple of weeks, we could see Edmonton put up some pretty good efforts and some good numbers against teams that are not top 10 in the NHL. But again, you play the schedule you get. So if you're able to win against the lesser teams, okay, you're in good spot. You're probably going to make the playoffs. And certainly for the Oilers, being at 8 wins already, that's a win overall. The Arizona Coyotes and the Vancouver Canucks are both 6-3-1. Thus the overlap of the 2 logos. Arizona's wins: Vegas, Winnipeg, Nashville, Ottawa, Rangers, and New Jersey. Their losses: Anaheim, Boston. Those were the first 2 games of the year, so they've been better since then. And in both games, their defense and goaltending were great. They just couldn't put the puck in the net. Colorado and the Islanders are the other 2 losses. Now, interestingly enough, they've only played 3 games against bottom 10 teams. They've won all 3. Against top 10 teams, they've won 1 out of 4. So, again, if you look at them against the top teams in the league, the only one that they've beaten is Nashville. They lost against Boston. That wasn't a regulation loss. Colorado and the Islanders as well. So, they've been close, and we'll see if they're able to keep this up. Their leading scorer is Nick Schmaltz with 4 goals, 7 assists, so 11 points in 10 games. Pretty good start for him. Ekman Larsson's their leading scoring defenseman at 2 goals and 4 assists. Connor Garland is a noteworthy youngster on their team, 5 goals and 1 assist. Garland may very well be a 20-goal scorer this year. Could see it. Next 5 games at Buffalo, so that's going to be a big game for both of them. Then they're against Montreal at home. They're versus Colorado. They're at Edmonton, and then they're at Calgary. So, in their next 5 games, 3 of them are against top 10 teams, and could very well tell us where Arizona's at and whether or not they're able to keep this going. Because at least one of these teams is going to end up falling off the map. You've got to think over an 82-game schedule. Which brings me to Vancouver. I don't think they necessarily fall off the map, but they could. And their overall record, there are some concerns. Their wins over LA, Philadelphia, Detroit, St. Louis, the Rangers, and Detroit. Their losses, Edmonton and Calgary, those were the first 2 games of the season, so much like the Arizona Coyotes, they started slow. And then New Jersey and Washington. Now, when they lose, they tend to make headlines. The game against New Jersey that they lost 1-0 was a nightmare. And, of course, they had that 5-1 lead against Washington. Realistically, they should be 7-3. But where they're at is 6-3-1. And that's, the devil's in the details. Now, that game against Washington was only their second game against a team in the top 10, the other one being against the Oilers that opened the season. They're 0-2 against teams in the top 10 on the power rankings. They are 4-1 against teams that are in the bottom 10 of the power rankings. So, again, all 4 of these teams have good records against teams that aren't starting the season particularly well. At home, they are 3-0-1. On the road, they're 3-3. At home, Arizona's 3-1. On the road, they're 3-2-1. So these teams are almost identical when it comes to their home and road record. Regulation and overtime wins is where Vancouver falls. They've only got 4. They've won 2 games in a shootout. They've lost 1 in a shootout. Overtime has settled nothing in any of the 3 games that have gone to extra time. Their power play, 20.93%, is the lowest on the board, but their penalty kill at 88.89% is the highest on the board. So their penalty kill has definitely helped them win some games. Their power play has had its moments where it's been great, and it's had its moments where it's been really miserable. Their leading scorer, JT Miller, 4 goals, 7 assists. He has been a revelation so far this season, but we can't expect that to continue. So while Elias Pettersson has 3 goals and 8 assists for 11 points, he's tied with Miller. You have to think Pettersson's going to be more likely to keep it up. Miller likely will fall off that over a point a game pace. I can't see that for the full season. Edler, noteworthy defenseman at 3 goals, 3 assists. He's not the leading scoring defenseman. That's Quinn Hughes, the rookie, with 1 goal, 6 assists. Quinn Hughes has been absolutely fantastic, and he has changed the dynamic on that blue line a lot. But the next 5 games for the Canucks will show something, not because they're playing top teams, but because of who they're playing. So they're at home against Florida on Monday. Then they do the Valley of Death. California, every year I've referred to it as the Valley of Death. Now, last year wasn't quite as bad. It was the Valley of Severe Wounding, the Valley of, we're kind of hurt, but we're okay. Not the Valley of Death for the Canucks last year. They're at LA, at Anaheim, and at San Jose in that order. And then they're at home against St. Louis. So over their next 5 games, they have a grand total of 0 against teams currently in the top 10 on the power rankings. But, little asterisk here, that trip through California can be troublesome for the Vancouver Canucks franchise. Absolutely can be a huge issue. So, when I look at the 4 teams, I don't think we know yet whether any of these are really a contending team yet. What we know is 7 of the 9 wins for Buffalo against bottom 10 teams, 4 of the 8 for Edmonton against bottom 10, 3 of the 6 for Arizona, 4 of the 6 for Vancouver. So once they start playing the better teams, we'll see. Buffalo's only got the 1 game. Edmonton's got 2. They're 2-0. Buffalo's 1-0 in theirs. 1-3 is the record for, well, I say 1-3, and yet they're not all regulation losses. They've won 1 out of 4 against top 10 teams, have Arizona. And Vancouver's troublesome in that they're winless in 2 games against top 10 teams. So let me know in the comment section below, of the 4 teams, which one do you think is most likely to keep this up? Not necessarily at the rate these guys are at, but which one's most likely to be a home team in the playoffs come spring, and which one's most likely to end up going through the crash that inevitably happens with teams that get off to hot starts. We'll likely see at least one of them go through that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.